Hi, welcome to the Gemara on Chaf Gimel Amud Bet. We're starting immediately following the Mishnah. Minahani Milai, that's the first question in the Gemara. Following up on, it seems like the overall subject in the Mishnah about things that require 10 people or things that require a minyan. Amar Rabbi Chia bar Abba, Amar Rabbi Yochanan, Ze Amar Kra. It's as we say in a pasuk, V'nikdashti b'toch b'nei Yisrael. I will be sanctified among the people of Israel. This is God speaking, of course. And this means, according to Rabbi Yochanan, Kol davar shebiktusha lo yeh pachot ma'asara. Anything which can be categorized as a davar shebiktusha, which literally translates as a matter of holiness, a matter of sanctity, which apparently the things in this Mishnah are in that category. So anything that falls into that category is you can't have fewer than 10. My mashma, literally, what does this mean, or how does this mean this? How do we learn this from the verse that you quoted, right? How does V'nikdashi b'toch b'nei Yisrael lead you to believe that you need 10 people? Titani Rabbi Chia, as Rabbi Chia taught, Atya toch toch. We learn from, or we bring toch and toch. So we're going to make a connection, like Zera Shava, between the word toch and the word toch. K'tiv hacha, it says here, V'nikdashti b'toch b'nei Yisrael, that I will be sanctified among the people of Israel. We have that word b'toch, as we saw a moment ago. Uktiv hatam, and it says there, Hibadlu mitoch ha'edah. Separate yourselves from that edah. So this is a quote from Bamidbar, and just referring to a group of people. Specifically, the quote is down here, speaking about Korach, Hibadlu mitoch ha'edah hazot, va'achaleo tam karaga. God says you need to separate yourselves from edat Korach because I'm going to destroy them. So separate yourselves, again, mitoch ha'edah, from among that congregation. Va'ache edah, and then we can make a further gzera shava, edah. We can connect the words edah in one place, or the word edah in one place, with the word edah in another place. Dichtiv hatam, because it says there, ad matai le'edah hara'a hazot. Until when will this evil group go on? This is referring to the spies, and there were 10 bad spies, 10 spies who brought back a bad report, excluding Yehoshua and Caleb. Malahalan asara, afkan asara. So just as there it's 10, so too here it's 10. So working backwards, edah means 10 with the spies, so edah must also mean 10 with Korach, and we have the word mitoch with edat Korach, so we must also mean 10 people when we talk about V'nikdashti b'toch b'nei Yisrael. It's a two-step gzera shava, and that's how we get that things that are sanctified things, Dvarim shebiktusha, require 10. And Rashi on edah, I'll just show you that Rashi, speaking about this idea that you need 10. In pchuta ma'asara, can't have fewer than 10. Shnei amar ad matai le'edah hara'a hazot yatsu Yehoshua v'Kalev. So just Rashi points out that we exclude Yehoshua and Kalev, and that's how we get 10 bad spies. Moving on to the next piece from the Mishnah, ve'ein osin ma'amad u'moshav pachot ma'asara. You don't do this standing and sitting ritual of mourning without 10. Kevan debai lememar amdu yikarim modu, shvu yikarim shvu. Since you are required to say, ba'i lememar, you're required to say, meaning the leader says, stand up, precious ones, stand up, and sit, precious ones, sit, meaning there's a leader giving instructions at each point when to stand and when to sit. But sir ma'asara lav arachara. With fewer than 10, this is not the way we do things. Lav arachara literally translates to, this is not derech eretz, this isn't the way of the world. And Rashi on lav arachara explains, lav arachara lahatriach shaliach lekach. It's not the way to make the leader work in this way, meaning with fewer than 10, v'likrotan yikarim, and to call them dear ones. T'im ken ma hinachtem merubin, because if so, what title have you left over for a bigger group? In other words, if you're going to treat a group smaller than 10 this way, what kavod would you give to a group bigger than 10? So it must be that this group for Ma'amad Moshav is at least 10. Ve'ein omrim birkat avelim u'birkat chatzanim. The next piece of the Mishnah about the blessing for mourners and the blessing for grooms, really the blessing for couples. My birkat avelim. What is birkat avelim? What is this bracha? Birkat rechava. It's the blessing that's said out in the street. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak, Amar Rabbi Yochanan. As was said by Rabbi Yitzchak in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, birkat avelim ba'asara. The blessing of avelim requires 10. The ein avelim min haminyan, and the avelim are not counted among the 10, so you need 10 plus the mourners. Birkat chatzanim ba'asara. Birkat chatzanim also requires 10. V'chatzanim min haminyan, and the groom or grooms are among the 10. Rashi explains ein avelim min haminyan, just to give you a little bit more context there. Shaharei hu omer bracha lemenachamim bifnei atzman, because a separate blessing is said to the comforters, right? There's one blessing for the comforters and one blessing for the comforted, for the mourners. Achenu bal hagmul yishalem lachem gmulchem hatov. Baruch atah Hashem mishalem hagmul. Our brothers, may the one who repays good things repay all the good that you've done. Blessed are you, the repayer of good things. So this is the blessing that is said for the people who were consoling the mourners, about God sort of paying you back for the good that you've done. And then there's a separate blessing said for those who are actually mourning, and that is Achenu bal nechamot yinachem etchem. Our brothers, may the master of consolation console you. Baruch atah Hashem menachem avelim. Blessed are you, God, who consoles mourners. Ve'ino kol alan yachad. And the blessings do not group the two groups together. Separate blessing for mourners, separate blessing for those doing the comforting. And so that's how we know that the mourners don't count among the 10 who are necessary for that bracha. Okay, moving on. Ve'in mezamnin al hamazon b'shem pachot masara. And we don't make a zimun with God's name with fewer than 10. Kevan zabai lemeimar nivarech le'elokeinu. Since it's required to say nivarech le'elokeinu, since we add God's name when we bless with 10. But sir ma'asara lav orachara. Fewer than 10, it's not appropriate, it's not derech eretz to include God's name if you have fewer than 10 people. V'hakarkaot tisha v'kohen v'adam kayotze v'hen. And for land, it's 9 plus a kohen, and for a person, similarly. So this, as you learned when discussing the Mishnah, is about evaluating the worth of land or of property for the purposes of, let's say, donating the worth to the Beit HaMikdash, consecrating to the Beit HaMikdash. So you need to know exactly how much it's worth, and there's a process for figuring out how much it's worth. So for appraising land, you need 9 person and a kohen, and for appraising a person, it's the same. Menahani mile. From where do we know this? From where do we get this? This is the Gemara's question. Amar Shmuel, Asara kohanim ktuvim beparsha. 10 kohanim are written in the parsha. Rashi explains what we're talking about. The parshat hektishot. Shosha be'erachin v'shosha be'behema v'arba'a be'karkaot. So kohen is mentioned 10 times in the section that deals with hekdesh, with consecrating things, 3 times with valuing things, 3 times with animals, and 3 times with land. V'kevan demashami b'hu asara be'inan asara gavrei. And since it comes to 10 times altogether, so it must mean that we need 10. Chad legufe. What one is needed really for itself. V'idach have miut achar miut. Ve'ein miut achar miut el l'rabot tisha Yisraelim v'chad kohen. So it says it 10 times. One time is the word is mentioned for itself. Chad legufe, meaning you have to say the word kohen at least once to know that we're talking about a kohen. And then the next one is a miut, it's an exclusion after an exclusion, meaning it already said kohen. So that limits it to just the universe of kohanim. Saying it again is another limitation, so we call that miyut achar miyut, exclusion following exclusion, and we have a rule that an exclusion following exclusion is actually a ribui, actually includes. So the first time it says Kohen, it's just telling you about Kohen, but the second time it's actually coming to include people who are not Kohanim. So Tisha Yisraelim v'chad Kohen. So only the first time the word Kohen is mentioned does it count actually as Kohen, and the other 9 can actually be Jews of any sort. Now the Gemara objects to this. Ve'ema chamisha Kohanim v'chamisha Yisraelim. I'll say that this could actually be 5 Kohanim and 5 Yisraelim, 5 non-Kohanim. How does this work? So Rashi explains, Kevan detama mishum miyut achar miyut. Since the reason we said is an exclusion after an exclusion. Right, so the first one says Kohen. That's the first exclusion. It limits it to just the world of Kohen. So we say, okay, fine, we need a Kohen. Second one comes, it's the second miyut. It says Kohen. We say, okay, that's miyut achar miyut. So that means that you can also have other Jews. But then it says, hu hashlishi no miyut achar miyut. So then the third one, miyut achar miyut hu. Right? So then hashlishi, but then the third time it's mentioned, it's not miyut achar miyut. Miyut achar miyut. Right? It's a third miyut, so you're on the next level. V'kivan d'darashle shnei miyut achar miyut it rabbi l'Yisrael. Ki hadar ata kohen shlishi ashmu'inan t'lehave kohen v'lo Yisrael. V'chen he, v'chen zayin, v'chen tet. In other words, it keeps flip-flopping. Right? The third one is not miyut achar miyut. The third one is a new case of saying Kohen, and then the fourth one is the next miyut. So that's miyut achar miyut. So only every other case is miyut achar miyut. So really you should have to split it, and you have 5 Kohanim and 5 Yisraelim. So that's the Gemara's objection. And the conclusion of this section, the Gemara just says, Kasha, you know what? You're right. This is definitely a difficulty. We don't know how to explain. The Gemara seems to accept the idea that the halacha is actually 9 Yisraelim and 1 Kohen, but the Gemara says we don't really know how to defend this because it's true, the point you raised is a good one. This is in fact difficult. Okay, moving on to the next section of the Mishnah. The Adam kiyotze behen, and similarly when assessing the value of a person. Adam mikadosh. Can a person be consecrated? Like, why would we be appraising the value of a person? Can you sanctify a person to the Beit HaMikdash? Amar Rabbi Abahu, be'omer damai alai. It's about someone who says, literally, my monetary value is upon me, meaning I'm going to donate my market value to the Beit HaMikdash. Titania, as we learned in the Braita, haomer damai alai, shamino toke eved. Someone who says, my value is upon me, right? I'm going to donate my market value to the Beit HaMikdash. We evaluate, we assess that person as though they were a slave. The eved itkash lakarkaot, and a slave is compared to land, as it is written, in this pasuk. I'm just going to put it in yellow. So as it's written, you will hold them as a heritage for your children after you, to inherit as an inheritance or as a possession. This is the connection. And Rashi explains, Eved itkash lakarkaot shnei amar, as it says in this pasuk, so because it says Bahem Ta'avodu, that's the connection between Eved and Karka. So just the same way as you assess Karkaot, so too you assess a person's value in that same way. Okay, we'll stop here.